Have you ever seen a horse that everyone considers impossible to tame? This is Stormer, a giant white stallion who had injured several men and was on the verge of being put down. No one wanted to buy him until Tom Reynolds, a veteran with no money, did something that changed everything forever. In Montana, where the wind never stops, there was a white Shire stallion as bright as snow. Stormer weighed over 100 kilograms of pure muscle and fury. At the auction corral, men stepped back when they saw him. This horse had broken bones, destroyed fences, and moved from ranch to ranch like a curse. Paul Mitchell, the auctioneer, knew this animal was different. "Gentlemen, you've got the biggest horse we've ever seen," he shouted into the microphone. "But also the toughest. If you buy him, you're buying the whole package." The price started high. No one raised a hand. $1,000, nothing. $800, total silence. The buyers stared at their boots, avoiding eye contact. $600, $400, $300. The number kept dropping like a stone. When Paul reached $50, he had already pulled out the folder marked for the slaughterhouse. It was the end of the road for Stormer. Then, a quiet voice came from the back. $150. All heads turned. Tom Reynolds limped forward, wearing a worn jacket and jeans stained with dirt. This man had served in the army and knew pain. He carried scars that weren't visible but marked him inside. "Do you know what you're buying?" Paul asked, concerned. "Yes," Tom replied calmly. "I see something in his eyes." The murmurs started immediately. "He won't last a week. That man's looking to get killed." But Tom didn't listen. He looked straight at Stormer. For the first time, the horse didn't bare his teeth or kick the fence. Sold. Tom Reynolds was now the owner of the most dangerous horse in the county. Taking Stormer home was like transporting dynamite. The trailer rocked violently as the stallion pounded the metal walls. Mike Harris, the transporter, was nervous. "This horse is a demon with doors," he warned Tom. "Watch your knees." Tom had built a special corral on the farthest part of his property, steel posts, reinforced fences, everything he could afford on his limited budget. When the trailer ramp lowered, Stormer leaped like lightning, ran to the farthest corner, and stood there, defiant. "There's water," Tom said, pointing to the trough. "Food when you're ready." The first days were a silent war. Stormer tested every weakness in the corral, banging the rails until they rang like bells. Tom repaired what broke and kept showing up twice a day. No yelling, no punishment, just persistence. Laura Brooks, the town veterinarian, came to check on the situation. "His body's fine," she observed from a distance. "Too good for what he's been through. The damage is in his mind." "What can I do?" Tom asked. "Time, consistency. Don't go in there trying to prove something. Just be steady." Frank Dalton, who had endured 21 hellish days with Stormer, showed up one afternoon. "I thought you'd be smarter," he told Tom. "That horse broke 3 of my ribs and smashed 20 meters of fence. He'll kill you before he trusts you." But Tom didn't give up. Every morning and afternoon, Tom appeared with water and food. He sat on a log near the corral and waited. He did nothing else, just existed in the same space as Stormer. Something was changing. Stormer no longer turned his back. When Tom approached, his ears flicked toward the man's sounds. The horse began eating while Tom was nearby. After weeks, the moment arrived. Tom walked to the corral with a rope. Stormer watched but didn't flee. Tom placed his hand on the fence, and slowly, very slowly, Stormer approached. His muzzle touched Tom's fingers. "Hey," Tom whispered. "From now on, you're Stormer." The name hung in the air like a promise. The horse tilted his head slightly, a gesture so small it could have been missed. But Tom saw it. It was the start of something new. Then came the unexpected. A terrible storm changed everything between them forever. The winds howled at over 80 kilometers per hour. Tom heard a crash from the corral and ran outside with his flashlight. The shed had collapsed, and a heavy beam pinned him to the ground. He couldn't move. Stormer had escaped through a gap in the fence, with the perfect chance to bolt into the open prairies. Any horse with his history would have run without looking back. But Stormer returned. The giant white stallion approached Tom, trapped under the beam. With his massive strength, he shoved the wood until it splintered. Tom freed himself. Stormer stayed close, shielding him from the icy wind with his own body. "You saved my life," Tom said, his voice breaking with emotion. From that night they were no longer strangers. Stormer let Tom touch him, brush him, and put on the rope. The trust born in silence now bloomed in actions. The news spread across the county. The killer horse had saved his owner. People came from miles around to see the unlikely pair. Paul Mitchell, the same auctioneer who had sold Stormer, publicly admitted he'd been wrong. "That horse is our symbol of hope," he said at a community gathering. "Second chances exist." Tom and Stormer began visiting schools, fairs, and rescue centers, not for tricks, but to show that patience and understanding can transform even the hardest hearts. Children approached cautiously, and Stormer lowered his great head for them to touch. "Does he get scared?" one boy asked. "Of course," Tom replied. "He just learned what to do with that fear, like people do." In the afternoons, Tom rode Stormer through the fields. There was no rush, no set destination, just a man and a horse who had found peace together. The wind carried the scent of hay and damp earth. Birds sang from the fence post. Tom had learned something important. It wasn't about taming a wild animal, it was about giving each other time to heal. Stormer wasn't just his horse. He was his life companion, a reminder that everyone deserves a second chance. When people asked for the secret, Tom smiled. "No secrets. I showed patience when he needed time. He showed courage when I needed hope." The afternoons became his favorite. Tom sat on the porch while Stormer grazed nearby. The house made its familiar little noises. Nothing hurried them. It was rare and beautiful. He thought back to the first day, the metallic clang of hooves against steel, the fear in the horse's eyes. Now he heard Stormer's soft breathing in the dark and smiled without realizing it. There would be more days, some easy, some hard, but the bond they'd built was like a cornerstone, solid and unshakable. Outside, Stormer lifted his head toward the porch, as if counting the rooms he couldn't see and the man sleeping inside. Then he returned to grazing, busy with the simple act of being alive. This story teaches us that everyone needs someone to believe in them, especially when they've stopped believing in themselves. Tom and Stormer found each other when they needed it most.